Hello, everyone. Good morning, good day, and maybe some of you even different days, depending on where you are. Welcome. I'm Wei Ping Wu, the director of the Master of Science in Urban Planning here at Columbia. Again, thank you for joining us. We will be recording my presentation, and if you're not comfortable with being recorded, you can turn your video off. And then around 10:30-ish or in about a half an hour, we will have some current students join us. At that point, we wouldn't be recording, and you can ask lots of questions and so on and so forth. While I'm presenting, you're welcome to drop down some of your questions in the chat box, and Kian, my colleague, assistant director in the planning program, may be able to answer your questions via chat box, or we can answer a little bit later after my presentation. Okay, again, thank you all for joining me and others for this open house session virtually to introduce to you the urban planning program at Columbia. So you all are thinking about planning, so I don't need to convince you of that. I wanted to convince you also and to show you how studying planning in New York City is a tremendous opportunity. And many of you may have been to New York or at least read about New York. It is a city of immense dynamism, opportunities, but also challenges. So you can see from this student work from the program that many of them study about effects of climate change, particularly in a city that is very wealthy for some and very disadvantaged for others, and especially when it comes to coastal vulnerability. So Kian, can you put our program's web link in the chat box? On that site, you'll be able to look for student work, many different types of classes, including studio reports and classwork like this one. On the other hand, New York, of course, also offers lots of opportunities because you can walk around, you can go collect data in a way almost like citizen science. So in this student sample, some of our students designed a sensor in a course called Urban Sensor and Data to measure air pollution, right? It looks a little bit like your lungs. And so they go out in the city and using the sensor they built themselves and collect data and bring the data back for analysis through, big data types of analytics. So our students really, you can see their work stretches across different topics. And so to be a little more systematic about our uniqueness, you can see what I listed here. I won't read everything, but truly our curriculum is very dynamic and flexible, trying to connect theory and practice. We have lots of seasoned practitioners teaching in the program. I will show you a few examples in a minute or two. The program also has had a very long history of centering our curriculum on justice related to social justice, racial and climate justice, and then certainly very global outlooks. And then we're also among the first few planning programs that have a cluster of courses on urban analytics. Last but not least, we have really top-notch career services catered just to our planning students, which I'll discuss a little bit later. So just to illustrate how dynamic our curriculum is, you can see here a list of courses that we have introduced as new courses and new topics in the last 5 years or so. In fact, every year we have 1 or 2 new courses. Especially I want to bring to your attention are 2 new required courses that really focus on our strengths. So justice as affected in how we study cities through the lens of political economy, but also how we are forward looking to integrate technologies and traditional or perhaps challenged planning institutions such as zoning regulations and so on and so forth in a new required course. And then you can also see the other courses. Again, go to our website. And Kian, can you share the link to the program booklet with everybody? That booklet contains all of the descriptions of our required courses, as well as elective courses and other really useful information. So that booklet has a wealth of resource for you to use as you explore about programs. Of course, we'll say, come to Columbia, and so on and so forth. I will always say that the best thing for you to do is to try to find out how our program match with your interest, how you can grow in our program. And if you decided to go to other programs, I think you will still do very well. So the match, the fit, are things that you want to look for as you explore planning programs. Beyond the curriculum, we have really a wealth of extracurricular activities, one of which is our lecture and planning series through which we invite many scholars and practitioners beyond Columbia to interact with students. And these are wonderful opportunities as well. So just really quick, the history of Columbia program is fairly long. We're not the oldest, but among the oldest. And throughout the history, as you can see, we have always focused on justice-related issues as well as the global outlook. We are somewhat different from some of the other planning programs, such as, let's say, MIT or Rutgers. We're our neighbors. We do not cover the waterfront, meaning every single topic in planning. They do because they're much bigger. What we do is we focus on a handful of strength areas, which I will articulate in a minute. And we do very well in those areas, and our students do very well after completing the program. And these are some of the publications by our full-time faculty. As you can see, a wide-ranging set of interests and geographies. As I mentioned, we have a large number of really seasoned professionals teaching in the program as adjunct faculty. Basically, we have about 40 in total, and at each semester, roughly about 20 or so are teaching. They mostly teach elective courses. In fact, each semester we have a roughly 16 to 17 elective courses. Some are co-taught and some are mostly seminar types of courses, but also practicum type of courses in which you will be able to do projects or a case study based approach or group types of work. As you can see here, these are just some examples of our adjunct faculty in very important positions outside the classroom. They come here and they're dedicated. Some of them have been with us for multiple years. Some are newer. And they connect with students not only through bringing practice to the classroom, but also bring students to practice. That is by introducing their projects, sometimes internships, and sometimes even longer term opportunities. And so check out the booklet again. We list all of them there. So quickly for the curriculum, we are PAB accredited, Planning Accreditation Board. We are 2-year full-time program. That means 4 semesters. We do not offer anything in the summer, so it's fall, spring, and with entry only in the fall. For core courses, 27 points, and then 33 additional points in electives. Out of that 33, you need to take 12 electives that are our urban planning courses. As you can see, we have 5 clusters of courses that reflect our strengths, and I will focus on each a little bit in a minute or two. And then beyond the 11, beyond the 12, the other 21 points of electives, you can take anywhere in GSAP. In fact, all of the GSAP courses are open to all students with exception of design studios in the architecture and other design programs. And you can also take courses beyond GSAP. And we have lots of resources to help students find these courses. If you have worked by this time 2 years or 2 years equivalent of full time in planning related fields, there is the option of pursuing the program through part-time. So reach out to us if that's you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. And as you can see from this program of study, the first year is fairly structured, right? You take mostly required courses and they are sequenced. And the second year is very open for you to explore, for you to really take anything that are of interest to you. And I want to also say that our required courses are quite distinct from many other planning programs. I happen to know a lot of planning programs. I'm a member of the Planning Accreditation Board, so I have reviewed many planning programs for accreditation. And there are about 80 or so graduate programs in the United States. And I've also worked into other planning programs prior to coming to Columbia. So if you have questions about comparing across programs, I'm happy to answer. You can also reach out through email about that. For instance, our history and theory of planning is very different. So we never really allow our students to not take that course because we approach it very intersectionally, very globally, and very critically. Our GIS class also is distinct because it's not just teaching students to click through ArcGIS to be able to make maps. No, it's about understanding how spatial data are actually collected, right? If you are a resident of New York City, depending on where you live, the kind of income you have, your origin and destination from home to work can go through very different pathways. Now, the GIS data may not always reflect that. So we need to understand what the data are telling us or not telling us. So our GIS class is about helping students understand how the sausage is made. This is something that was, kind of said by a GIS instructor of ours in the past. And then critically using the GIS tool to do spatial analysis. That said, if you are interested in taking courses that are more related to built environments, sort of more technical and so on, we have those as well. So let me show you then in a minute of some of the courses we have. So beyond the MSUP program, we also have multiple relationships with other programs through dual degrees, including within GSAP. Or with beyond GSAP. For many students, they're interested, not necessarily taking dual degrees, that's fine, take courses, it's good. If you are interested in dual degrees, you can also go to our website all the way scroll down to the bottom of the urban planning page and find the various different programs of study for different dual degrees, so you can learn more. You can apply now to 2 different programs, or in your first year here, you can apply for another program. So it's timing wise, it's somewhat flexible. Also excitingly, we probably are the most unique among all planning programs in that we have an exchange program. That is, in the second semester of your first year, up to 4 students can go to University College London, their Bartlett School of Planning, to spend the semester. And their students can come over here. So last spring we sent 2, next spring we're sending 2 as well. So this is really quite exciting. You get to spend time in New York and London, both very dynamic but different global cities. So this is, now let me spend a little bit of time on our courses, right? This is a studio. So studio is required in your second semester or first year. And generally half of the studio projects will be traveling. And this one was last spring to Chile. So we are in an architecture school. So we pay a lot of attention to the built environment. In this cluster of electives, you will see courses on land use and transportation, environmental issues, on zoning. So essentially, our curriculum is about training planners who are generally generalists, right? Meaning, I always encourage our students to explore different areas of planning, especially before you know what you want to do and to allow you to explore opportunities. And then climate adaptation is somewhat of a newer cluster for our program. This was very much driven by student interest. I remember 9 years ago when I first joined Columbia, we didn't have many courses on climate issues, but now we do. In fact, we are very strong. And if you compare to other planning programs, community and economic development is a very much the long-term tradition of the program with focus on racial social justice. Climate justice is addressed in the previous cluster. So here you will see a focus on housing, different types of housing issues, and then of course some cross-cutting with the climate cluster because really lots of courses deal with multiple issues. We organize them by clusters simply to help students choose courses, right? So I mentioned earlier, any given semester we have 16 to 17 electives. In fact, a lot of our students say, oh, so many courses, so hard to choose. Well, that's a good problem to have. So we try to cluster them so you understand where to look for interesting courses or useful courses. And then these clusters also help our students in articulating their abilities in their resumes, when they look for jobs, in their letters, right? International planning and development really is cross-cutting, but here we have also a number of courses that highlight our approach to global issues. We're not trying to train students who are going to be regional specialists. No, that's not our approach. Our approach is to help students to develop a mindset. So when you study in an American program, right? And you go back to, I don't know, China, India, Indonesia, and then you say, can I really directly apply the solutions, the responses, and knowledge that I learned in school? Do I really need to first understand the local context? What kind of questions should I ask in terms to, in order to understand the local context? These are the things, these are the questions we help you to develop in terms of your mindset. Urban analytics, as you can see, when I first came, also we had maybe a couple of courses. Now we have a lot more. Now, that doesn't mean we keep adding courses, right? What we do is we really let students vote with their feet. Students can express interest in terms of new courses, and then they can express interest in terms of going to some courses and not going to others. And so over the last 9 years, we also have retired a number of courses. In addition, we have 2 skills courses. And if you have no design background and you want to learn some, the first course is the way to go. And we always offer it in the fall. Every course here pretty much gets offered once a year, with the exception of a handful. So when students come in the fall, in the summer, I give the new cohort of students a 2-year rotation schedule so that over the 2 years you'll be here, you can take all of the courses that are of interest to you. The second skills course is quite unique as well. I don't know that many planning programs that offer project management, but it's an excellent skill for you to go out with. Again, another student sample work. Last, let me talk a little bit about how we prepare our students to be ready for important and emergent roles of planning. Let me actually just say a little bit. So I'm originally from China. My classmates and a lot of my colleagues work in very important positions with the planning education. They're vice mayors, they are vice governors, because that was a system that was a system of a planned economy. Now it's a hybrid system. Planning is a very practiced profession. In the United States, given that free market is the dominant economic system, planning oftentimes is considered by many as intervention into the market. So planning actually is a minor field in the American academy, right? So if you go to geography, you go to political science, you go to sociology, you're going to have hundreds of graduate programs. Urban planning, we have 80. Actually, a little over 90, 80 of them are accredited nationally. So it's much smaller. So my belief has always been to enlarge the footprint and the impact of planning or planners or the planning ethos. Our graduates should be going to neighboring fields, should be going to adjacent fields to spread that kind of ethos, the care for collective goods, common goods, the care for justice, for equity, all of those buttressed by strong skills and knowledge will get you be able to work in beyond traditional planning roles. That's what I meant by emergent roles. And our students do very well in those. And sometimes I will meet alum and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Wei Ping. I'm not working in planning. I'm working in real estate firm." I'm like, "Don't be sorry. That's what you should be doing." So to help our students achieve that, we have multiple layers of advising, right? Kian and I advise on general curriculum. You will have a faculty advisor who give you more intellectual input. Then we have one-on-one mentorship with alum for second-year students. But more importantly, we have an excellent career service. Douglas Woodward, who's also on this call here, he is our associate director for professional development and practice. As you can see, you do one-on-one at least once a semester to really think about the courses you take should inform what careers you want to pursue after the program. So we do it as soon as you come in fact, even before you come in the summer. Then we offer lots of workshops, networking opportunities with alums, both locally. So we do these mixers once a semester. Then every year we go to APA conference, and not only for students to go to the sessions, but also to interact with alums. And then last but not least, we have all these placement activities through career fairs and so on. So in that booklet that I had mentioned earlier, that you can find on our website, we outlined about a dozen or so career pathways for our students and for our graduates. As you can see, the top ones tend to be more traditional roles. Then we recommend, the kind of coursework you would consider. And in the middle column are examples of places where our alum have worked. And look at the bottom few of the career pathways. Some of them are not so common, but we have lots of students work in urban tech, urban startup, and private consulting, and doing research in real estate firms. And then in that same booklet, you will also find a list of places that our alums have been working either in terms of internship or their first job or even their subsequent jobs in the last 10 years. So look up that booklet. So this is a glimpse of our career fair, and then reception at APA last April in Denver. Yeah, so you can see students and alum, myself and another faculty member, two faculty members. All right, last but not least, we have lots of student organizations, one of which is our student magazine called Urban. And it's fantastic, and it includes publications of students as well as others. And it's award-winning. I think 2 years ago, it won an award from the local Center for Architecture here. Um, and then aside from that, we have Program Council, we have Urban Observation Society, we have a housing interest group. So we have about a dozen or so urban planning, no, I'm sorry, half a dozen or so urban planning student organizations. And then there are GSAP-wide student organizations as well. That booklet will also have all of them there. This is the physical space our students uh, occupy. Is the lounge, and then next to it also is a computer lab with 30 really wonderful high-powered machines. And then to the other direction, neighboring, is another classroom that only UP students use. So this whole suite is for students, planning students, and the relationships that students cultivate through taking classes together, interacting together in the lounge really lasts for a lifetime for many of them. And as you can see, all right, last, I have maybe 1 minute going over a little bit to talk about your application. And we do review our applications in a comprehensive manner, from different angles, as I listed here. This presentation, as I mentioned, is recorded and will be posted on our website. So then if you want details, you're welcome to look it up later. So the personal statement, let me say something about that, is really important. Let me also say something about AI. So before last year, I would read applications, I would see different kinds of framing and so on. Oh my God, last year, I can't tell you how many personal statements start with the same sentence. So be yourself, express your own thoughts, express your understanding of the field of urban planning, your understanding of our program. If your personal statement says, I want to come to MIT to do this and that, oh my God, right? The chance is not very high you'll be here. I'm just saying, be careful and read and proofread. That statement is where we look for your thoughtfulness and your experience with analytical reasoning. So GRE is optional. Therefore, we would like you, in fact, you are required in your statement to talk about your experience with analytical reasoning. That could be GIS, could be statistics, could be coding analytics, or qualitative methods like ethnographical methods if you are, say, anthropology major. In any case, we need to know how much you have done that. Mind you, our students come from all sorts of backgrounds: arts, science, engineering, you name it. Of course, the more common are architecture and other social science fields. So you don't necessarily need prior planning experience to get into our program. You, however, need to show us your understanding of why you choose urban planning and what you might want to do after you get the degree. Last but not least, we are very expensive. Like, I will be the first to admit that. We are probably the most expensive. And I think that's one of the motivations behind why I really have tried very hard to design the curriculum to allow students to learn a wide-ranging types of topics, even beyond planning, beyond GSAP, right, across Columbia. We do have some limited scholarship. They are merit-based during admission. In fact, they're very competitive, but they are now growing and growing. Our school has been investing more in financial aid. So there will be some small number of full tuition scholarship Another second tier covers about 2/3, and the third tier covers about 1/3 of tuition. Altogether, maybe somewhere around a dozen to 15 incoming students out of roughly 50 students we have each year would have these scholarship. And then the summer before you matriculate, if you get in, and there will be opportunities to apply for TA or RA. Every semester, we have 9 positions. In total, each year, we have 18 positions uh, in that category. And then about a handful of merit scholarships will be awarded to second-year students during the summer between the 2 years. Generally, we award those to students who've shown tremendous progress in their first year. And then the need-based is actually very small in amount and more like emergency types of funding. Now, of course, this doesn't include federal loans and so on and so forth. These are mostly scholarships. Okay, so Kian has shared with you in the chat box of the various links. If you come in late and don't have those, Kian can perhaps post again. So I would just encourage you to explore and ask questions and reach out to us. And that booklet is really useful. And then the second link on this page, which Kian can also post, is really a page designed specifically for prospective students. And so lots of information are filtered and really useful for you.